Welcome to Stars and Sprouts, a pagan parenting podcast
where magic meets motherhood.
We are your hosts, Cawnawyn
and Annette, here to explore the sacred,
the cyclical,
and the soulful path of raising children
in rhythm with the earth and stars. Hi, Annette. Welcome to the Winter Solstice. We've made it.
Oh, have we?
I don't know. Have we made it?
I feel like you can't say you've made it until like winter's over, right?
God,
like
we have a long way to go.
And then it's like, do you survive?
The solstice is meant to bring the light back, though. Like, I'm really genuinely so looking forward. We're going to go so hard for solstice morning with our drums and just like scream, "Welcome back, sun!" Like, I need that to get me through the winter.
You are correct. But I guess I visualize it almost like we've reached the bottom of something. Like, I'm thinking a lot about the bottom of lakes. Since we last talked, a lot has happened. And I attended another in-person herbal course where we did a lot of like plant attunements.
Cool.
And for me, those are often, not always, but often like very visual. And so that took me to some very deep, dark, watery places. So anyway, it's like more like now we come back to the surface after solstice.
I'm so ready are we all ready, everyone? All the listeners? Tell us the things, Annette.
Well, they're all so personal. So it's hard to know like what really is going to reach people. I feel like I am a broken record because I keep saying how much I've been changing over the last couple of months.
It's the year of the snake, girl. We're all freaking changing.
Well, since we chatted last, I met with a shamanic practitioner as well as that herbal course. And I got some very needed guidance. And, I say that with a little caution, right? Like, so it's desirable and appealing to get someone to fix you and, take a pill, tell me what I need to do and seek these external fixes. But I think I'd been very in need of some mature guidance that is hard to find sometimes for us as spiritual people. We're doing it a lot by ourselves. We're figuring a lot out as we go.
I feel like the irony of that is there are gurus everywhere. Like everybody is a master, a spiritual, awakened, like I've ascended to the fifth dimension and I'm better than you all. Like isn't that funny? We're all so wrapped up in our own experience that we're like, this makes us like master level because look at all that I've been through. But yeah, it feels like equally kind of isolating in this practice too of like, well, where do I turn to for this guidance?
Yeah. And I think I'm looking for kind of like grandparent community rooted
elders, right? Yes.
Yeah. I'm looking for elders. Yeah. And I think I found one. I wanted to tell you for the magical something holly related because holly is traditionally sort of adorning our houses at this time of year. I found a holly tree and have enjoyed seeing this tree and visiting this tree over the last couple of years. And so last year around this time, I, asking permission, harvested some branches of holly that were kind of encroaching on the path where I think they were going to be harvested anyway. But I made kind of like a bow and I hung it up in my house. So as I've already said today, this past year has been like a huge amount of transformation. And I've been wondering, like, is this because in some cultural traditions, when you have a child, you're very open afterwards and you kind of like level up after that. And I do wonder if that's actually required to meet the needs of being her parent or to come over the next decade or so. Well, I had just found a whole host of plant spirit medicine workers and other sort of like spiritual herbalists and had heard a couple of different lectures speaking about holly.
Wow.
And Matthew Wood, Chris McPadden, and Amanda Nicole all speak about holly, very indigenous informed relations to animal medicine. And so holly is not to be trifled with. Holly is very heart opening and maybe in ways that are going to rock your world. Like, don't tread there lightly. Also, bat medicine. So understanding that plants have, maybe one or many different archetypal lessons. So in the Ojibwe tradition that Chris McPadden talked about, there is a DNA altering component to bat medicine. It can even change like the DNA of your ancestors it is true that a lot of viruses get developed in bats because metabolic, like it's changing so fast. This is also like how bacteria outwits, they have like 20-minute lifetimes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they just evolve really quickly. Anyway, scientifically, we know that they produce these sort of viral changes and just that link to genetic material. So I'm realizing that the holly that I put up in my house is maybe a reason why I have experienced this very heart opened transformation flooding in type of year. And because it's still there. It's been up the entire year.
Signals are still sounding, everyone. The alarm's still going. The door is open.
And I'm really dragging this out. Sorry. The punchline is that about a week after, within a week of having that realization of like looking at the holly boughs on my wall and saying like, oh, maybe it was you, a dead bat was right outside my back gate. I was leaving for work and there was this little poor bat on the ground.
I'm laughing, but like, what just happened?
I'm just saying, like, I'm not a witch, but
I'm not a witch.
But like, what the heck? So,
Girl,
like, I guess my relationship with sacrifice and death is changing a lot. So just seeing a dead bat is not necessarily like some sort of
omen,
but more like a call to action, right? Like I haven't completely decoded what that responsibility is. That is something that feels a bit magical that's happening and feels seasonally relevant.
Wow.
Would you care to share?
How does that relate to parenthood?
How does that relate to parenthood?
What's been going on in that arena, like simultaneously?
This is not my strong suit, like bringing it back to the...
Gotta bring it back. Cawnawyn's bringing it back.
I feel like so much of maybe a recurring thing I'm noticing is that like I'm seeking the spirituality, like not in spite of parenting, but there is a lot of like self-development, self-reflection, claiming of self that has to happen sort of in the face of parenthood, which is so demanding. And so this is sort of this magical space and deeply experiential kind of stuff I'm doing it's for me. Right.
Yeah.
And that makes me a better parent, you know, like as I continue to work on myself, I show up as a better parent and then trying to think specifically about the bat.
Well, you know, I need to like get the middle of the night Annette text me like, I get the bat now. It makes sense. But I want to actually resonate with you because you had your daughter, is it over a year now ago? Like,
yeah, she just turned one this week from when we're recording. Yeah, I know.
My goodness. Yeah. I can't believe it's been a year. That's crazy. When I was like in those first probably, I won't say 24 months because stuff started picking up, but especially the first months, right? I really felt the disconnect myself between like my spiritual development, everything I was going through, and like what you talked about, like having to open your heart up, like when you've had a child and the growing up you have to do and the self-soothing and self-care and all the reckoning you do with your own childhood and your own capacity to love another human that is so dependent on you. And so any realizations and spirituality and work I was going through, it felt separate. I think what's cool about the fact that we're documenting this is that you and I may look back later and go like, oh no, actually that really had this signal or this connection. And maybe it doesn't, and that's okay too, right? But I look at now where I'm at and there's a lot more comfort I have with bridging the two together, but you have to go through like so much internal work at first that there's no shame. And I want other moms out there hearing that too, to understand like, yes, we're doing this pagan podcast and that's cool that we're like bridging the two together. And so much I know you and I have talked about does bridge together, but it doesn't always have to. And like, I encourage every parent out there who's working through their spirituality and their place, you can keep a lot of it to yourself. And some of it's just downright inappropriate to share with children. It's a delicate dance in a way, but that was not to pressure you. And like, I can really relate to being like, oh wait, like what? Like, I don't know if I would have been able to answer that a year ago, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Are you longing for more of the reflective energy at this time of year, or?
I think I feel like I'm having a lot of that experience of reflection. I think what I'm longing for is more of that elder space to share it with. And I'll just be totally honest, like as far as grief and grieving, and I know we talked a lot about that around Samhain, but like it ain't over. What I'm grieving right now is that particular kind of loneliness, really craving a mentor and a guide and not having one, and kind of wrestling with myself about, is that a lesson I need to be learning? You know, am I just seeking some sort of external validation? Is my real work to figure it out myself? Or is it really just a genuinely sad aspect of our present reality that there aren't a lot of these elders around, and our lifestyle doesn't really maybe allow me to just live a life where I am a apprentice to somebody who could give me that type of teaching. I guess thinking about what are we learning from this season? It's supposed to be a time to reflect and maybe slow down for so many people with children. It's like,
with what time, with what
that would
space?
be so nice. Like
what a luxury, right? Yeah.
In so many ways, like it's almost the opposite this time of year, right? Like, oh, fit in all your fun, fit in all your travel, fit in all your celebration, shop, shop, buy, buy, wrap, gift, surprise. Like you're so worried about your children's magical experiences, but I think in the same way, we were talking about that balance of, your own spirituality, your own path, your own development versus bringing in the children, right? And when you have limited time, like you're not going to have a grand ceremony for yourself, even if you want to, right? And like you might need to do something that includes them because like they're there.
Yeah.
I guess I've been thinking a lot about how I have such like a rigid idea of what it means to be doing enough that kind of gets in the way. And said a different way, I've been amazed how magically gratifying it is to just, while I'm falling asleep, think about the 4 directions. And it's not thinking that I'm doing, it's like genuine attention, genuine sensing, right? Like I'm not just thinking logically about things. I'm like, let me take a moment to feel north and feel earth energy and really like having all these senses and tuning into those different senses. In my herbal course, they talked about visualization as using your brain for good. And I would tattoo that on my body. My brain just like will not stop, but girl can visualize, right? When I channel my brain in that pathway, things really do happen. So I was like, now I know how to handle this beast.
Superpowers, yes.
Yes. I guess I'll stop there and I'll just see if that triggered anything for you.
So, okay, I want to like touch on the serious thing that I thought of, which was just when we become a mother, it's not just ourselves as like independent people, like suddenly we are within a line of ancestors and descendants. And we see ourselves as part of that like large chain of human lives. And to not have that part of the chain that's quote behind you, but is maybe your grandparents or great grandparents, and that they're inaccessible through mundane means, like naturally we would long for that because that's like a part of our being now that's incomplete. Now, of course, we know as spiritual practitioners, we can communicate with them in other ways, but I think there's still a grief of their 3D tangible form not being there for us to ask, like, hey, how did you do this? Or when you were young, like, what was this like? Or could you share like some of your wisdom about when you went and did this thing? Good on you. I think great self-awareness for being like, is this like the need for the quick fix mentor? Because I definitely pedestalize people to my fault, right? And so it's always got to be this check. But like, I wonder if some of that is literally just from this void, this vacuum of we don't have that familial connection to turn to. So we're looking for that sort of incomplete part of ourselves. Not that we're incomplete or anything, but especially now as mothers, that lineage really means something different. I just feel so tied to it myself. So I totally resonate with you on that. I think both are true, right? And I can really relate because the way that our society treats our older generations is so pitiful and so sad. And, there are incredible caregivers and people out there that are doing so much to care for our older generations. But just as a whole, it breaks my heart seeing the inadequate level of care and attention that they get. And they're so isolated and they're so alone. It's like, could we bridge that? Other cultures have done that work, right? And like gotten kids and young adults like in these homes to just talk. And it's like such a beautiful thing. It's something I really hope I can actually do with my kids. My mother, I will say, I will give her, like, she had us meeting with these like old ladies that I went to church, right, growing up. And there was always this like row of chairs, and one of them lived to be 105. We would go visit them every month in their home and just like talk to them. And it was a really meaningful connection. And I miss that. I miss that bond that I had with people that lived in a totally different time. So I don't know, that got me really just like nostalgic and heartfelt.
I wonder if you feel this way, because I know I do, is that when I was doing some of my more focused ancestor work and getting that sense of personality coming through, like actual individuals and their presence and how amazing that was. After having done that a little bit, I also kind of had a bereft feeling of like the gulf between my lifetime and another lifetime in my lineage
Oh,
that
yeah.
saw the world the way I see it. So in other words, like, sure, I have my great grannies who might have had a little bit of folktale traditional stories and superstition or whatever, but like they were Catholic and nothing against that. And also you can be Catholic and spiritual and everything like that. But like just this sort of animist worldview that I'm coming to. And I think that that is something that is hundreds or more. I just feel like I reach back for that and it's like I can't, you know what I mean? Like it's so far that I'm like just grasping out into this space where I don't have any stories that's going to connect me to that person. I don't have any real sense of like what their daily life was like, and the fact that their daily life was nothing like mine means that, like, is there really anybody that does have that worldview? And also just being totally honest, like I think maybe my worldview is a product of like the land I've lived on. And my ancestors never lived on this land. Like my ancestors never went this west. And maybe my ideology aligns more with them. And that's really complex. I mean, in all of our lineages, kind of feel like we have both sides of like warring parties, like eventually marrying in, you know what I mean? Like, hello, my English and Irish ancestry. Like, how are you doing? And you guys getting along? Anyway, which I only made more complicated my children, bless their hearts. I do think that plant spirit engagement is a very grounded way to do it because you are learning directly from the source. You're not sort of like putting any culture on a pedestal. The plant's going to tell you what the plant's going to tell you. But that hasn't also brought me any further away from some of those like indigenous teachings. It's brought me way more in alignment with indigenous teachings of this land. And so just kind of grappling with that.
And then you introduce in the concept that all time is happening at once and we're actually all just living in different you actually are all those cultures living right now.
Well, we are all one. Yeah, that's true. Like you could feel me kind of grappling with like identity politics, which is a very modern issue. It shouldn't be diminished, right?
Yeah.
I want to talk more about when we look to 2026.
Is that a concept of oneness?
Well, we both study the Irish lore, and you more than me, so correct me if I get my terms wrong, but the Tua Danann and the Formians, like, right, like these are different groups in ancient Ireland. And there's warring between these spiritual beings. But anyway, there's some sort of line in the, Catholic term.
In the Commentary.
Thank you. Where the Tua Danann, they just peace out. Right? They just go to the other dimension and it's described as turning to the left.
Yeah.
And so when we think about this time of turmoil and transition, and I hear a lot about like resistance, let's resist, but like right in that concept is struggle. So like if you take like Buddhist thinking about like, if you like the verb you use is the verb that will remain, right? So if you're resisting, you don't ever arrive. Right? If you're wanting, you don't ever have. That seems flawed to me. So, okay, all of these different schools of thought pointing to resistance and sort of this direct confrontation is not how we arrive at the new age, the equitable vision that honors life on earth in all its form, including the rocks, please and thank you, and the waters and the air. And like, you know, our elders aren't respected, right? Like what you were talking about. We can't honor the slowing down the way we want to of this season. Like I hear all this like robots, AI are going to replace us. Like we are the robots that replaced us. Like we are expected to just do everything, right? Like consistently. And so anyway, my rant is going towards like, let's inviting us to turn to the left. How do we get to that new place, right? And that folklore way and that spiritual way that we've been taught, right? And we've been told through story we can get to. And I just want to put that as an invitation to release people from the sense of obligation of anger, release people from the sense of obligation of resistance, release people from the sense of obligation to fight. No wonder you're tired, right? And these problems are real and they are urgent and they're literally life threatening and soul threatening. Right? Like, let's get onto the etheric plane. Like, there are serious consequences beyond this mortal coil, but we are not going to get there through damaging ourselves, right? Like, I am here to heal myself, my generations, my children, and their generations. But like, that's also a spiritual path, right? Like, not in a spiritual, like, I'm going to sign up for this, you know, label, but just how do I move through the world and how do I manifest? What do you want the future to look like? Like literally visualize it right now. You know what I mean? Like what are the things that are holding you back? What are you resisting within yourself? Right? Like anyway, I could go on.
Oh no, this is so good. Okay, hold on. Oh my God. I'm honest, I'm not mad, but I'm like, you know, that like feeling of like, oh. because you're just hitting on like all the things right now. So I had this realization. I think it's no secret that I work with the Morrigan at this point. I had this moment a few mornings ago where I was just like writing out thoughts and feelings and reflecting and everything. And what came out of it was this realization of like, isn't it funny? Isn't it ironic that I am working so closely with a war goddess and the resounding message is to no longer go to war with myself. And it's not about like this warrior, this grit, this like, oh, everything's a struggle and a fight. And like, oh, I just keep punishing myself, right? Like, that's not what it's about. But like, I'm drawn to her because she has that energy. And then to come to find out, it's really not the point. That's really not the message. And I felt like so called out in a way by what you were saying, but like in the best, most loving way. And also, like you said, I mean, you know, the pressures around the season, like this season in particular, it's actually, I would say that the Christmas season is the number one reason I turned away from religion because of what it has become. I mean, I always joke that I'm the Grinch. Like I am very much like, I don't like the tinsel, the wrappings, the noise, the feasting, like all that, go away. And it's what turned me completely off of so much of organized religion was just this whole cacophony of noise. And I wanted like goth girl winter is like my vibe, right? I wanted to be like curled away in my nook and like the quiet with my book and just by the fire and nobody look at me. And it wasn't until I discovered paganism and pagan practice that's like, oh, Yule, that's what Yule is. Got it. Okay, cool. And so here, but you know, even still as a parent too, I'm feeling so much of the pressure to like keep up with AI, to keep up with gifting my kids because they're adorable and I want to make them happy. And it's like, to what cost? I need to do this for this person and this for this person. And it's just, it's so much that draws me away from that reflection, that peace, that quiet. It was just wild to me that you were talking about like maybe the answer is not just more resistance and more grit and more friction. It's actually a complete turning away to something that's going to innovate our process. We are all visionaries. So like, what is the vision? And like, this is so loudly like resounding as not the future in astrology in 2026, but it's so much the invitation that I see. And I don't know how many people are taking it that seriously. Like, what could we do instead? What could we try different? Because this is a visionary aspect, but it's going to require us to be innovative and different and to unify. What if we could just turn left?
Yes, yes, turn left. Like listen to our folklore. There are oral traditions and teachings that can guide us through these moments, but they are trying to tell us things like turn left.
Please.
Mary Oliver poem called Wild Geese. It's very famous, but you do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves.
Soft animal of your body love what it loves.
You just have to let your soft animal, you know what I mean? Like you don't have to do the ritual. You don't have to bake the cookies. You don't have to light the candles. Like, you know what I mean? Do you even know what that is? I think when we are in the thick of parenthood, we don't even know that. In fact, like I actually don't think I ever knew, but it's only becoming a parent that I realized I didn't know. Right. And
I don't know. I feel like I've been driven to such primal states in motherhood that like the only thing that will get me through the next minute is asking like that inner animal, like, what do I need right now? Like just to get me through the next minute. Yeah. And maybe that's my rage problem. I don't know. But like there are moments.
Well, you're also a Leo, and I feel like there's a certain like
true. Yeah, I could feel that.
I don't know what I would describe it as, but like my Piscean.
You're a fish.
Actually.
What does your little fishy body need?
So some signs are pointing towards the fish connection being a little bit more relevant in like a spiritual way than I expected. I'm like Matthew Wood will talk about like your spirit self, which usually takes an animal form. It will give you nightmares until you are ready, right? Like it's sort of protecting a boundary, if you can picture it that way.
Oh God.
And
that's like bringing up a lot for me right now. I dream
about water all the time and things in the water. And some of those plant visions from my class took me to some very great deep water fish. That's why I keep going back to the deep water. I'm getting to know them and wondering if that's me trying to get to know myself. But then there's also the bat. So
well, let me introduce a new character because I have to tell you about this camel.
Okay, so a new player has entered the chat. Camel.
So my oldest, my Aquarius, my air sign, winter baby, is really, if any of you are familiar, we're in this family phase right now of playing Zelda Breath of the Wild. And I love that game so much. But big Zelda game, right, came out like, I want to say it was like 10 years ago now. It's crazy. But we've been playing it with the kids and they watch and we just have a great time. And then we have to like turn it off because they will try to beat each other up, like all the characters. And it's great. It's a whole like balancing mess. But there are these giant robotic animals in this game that you have to like take away the corruption. So if you're not familiar with Zelda, basically the bad guy is Ganon, and Ganon has come in and corrupted these giant robot animals that are supposed to protect the people of Hyrule, but he comes in and corrupts them, and now they are like wreaking havoc. And so you as Link have to go in and like uncorrupt it and fight the boss and all this stuff. There are four animals, okay? And there's a bird, elephant, and a I think it's a chameleon, but it's some kind of lizard. And there is the camel. Vanna Boris is the name. And Vanna Boris is the stomping camel that my son just loves with his whole little heart. And he has repeatedly demanded the camel as a robot, remote control this camel for Christmas. That's what he wants. What do you want for Santa, bud? I want a remote control camel from Zelda. And it doesn't even look like a real camel, okay? Like if anybody knows what this thing looks like, it looks like a robot. It's not like it's like a robot with humps, okay? Like it's not. So you can't just like get a camel and be like, "Here you go, kid." And he'll be like, "What is this? This is not it." So we've been on this path of like, what do we do? Because he's repeatedly expressly said like, "If I don't get this camel, mama, I will be so sad." He's 3. So it's like, what do we do? And all we can do is get this like actual model of the thing for like $50, or we could get, there's Walmart sells this like real janky looking camel with like a necklace that you can like remote control around. So we're like, what do we do? I'm kind of hoping we can just be like, look at all this other stuff we got you, because it came out of nowhere that he was like, I need the camel.
I see. So you can't get him like one bigger gift and just say,
that's kind of the goal. Like we've already gotten the kids plenty of stuff. I don't want to get another thing, but this just like popped up once I finished like, okay, got all Christmas covered. We're set. We're actually focusing on books and cozy things for their bed, and that's it. They're 3 and 2. It's
this
like
is a
no
good
pressure.
mundane. Oh,
thank you. I thought so.
Yeah, because this is the type of like heart angst, brain power stuff that I don't want to have to deal with, but has become my life.
Right. Yeah.
Great
like
example.
I never thought I'd be like up late at night, like stressing out over like, do I tie the camel to a car?
Well, oh my gosh, right? And then it's like, do I splurge and spend that money? But then am I just like spoiling them and like, giving them what they want? Like, is that like, there's all this like, oh,
how long is it going to last? Is this really a good return on investment here? Like, do we care that much?
There's something about like just giving them everything they want. That's like oh.
It's so funny to me. Like I'm gonna look back on this and laugh so hard. I hope he laughs so hard one day and listens. So
what I'm wondering, kind of, if it looks like it's like those Star Wars things that are no,
it doesn't. Okay. It has like ears that turn and they create a laser beam in front of its head and like point the laser beam.
This is special.
We've taken a break from the game in the hopes that like if it's not continuously exposed to him, he's not gonna covet it as much. But Christmas is a fun time.
We didn't really talk yet about like, what are we actually planning to do?
Yeah, what are we planning?
Okay. Well, I guess the dream, right? The dream is that it's this really beautiful spiritual evening with a candlelit dinner and we all go to bed. And very little tech.
Hello.
You know what I mean? And like, yes. I would love it if we all were like a family band and excellent vocals and like had like a tight harmony, some sort of ethereal, thinking like Gregorian chant. Let's see, how old are they? 3.5 and 1.
Same.
I think so. Yeah. So I think what actually will happen is may or may not light one candle, would like to turn off all the lights except for the sort of the decorative seasonal twinkle lights we have inside, because those kind of create a nice ambiance.
Indeed.
And then hopefully instead of TV, or maybe not as much TV, we can do just like some banging on some instruments and then try to call it a day.
That's a good time.
That's the full spectrum. And I don't even know if that'll happen.
We'll let you guys know. How did Yule go? Because, did the camel happen? Were there candles lit? How was the chant? Were there tight harmonies?
We've done this a couple times, right? Where it's like, oh, like, what could you do? What would you do? What do you think you're going to do? And I think I'm like 0 for 3. So
you know what? I have this like image of us in a few years doing this, being like so proud of ourselves for how far we'd come. Like we start this off and we're like, oh my God, we're trying, but like it's so hard. And like in a few years, we're gonna have it locked in.
So
this pagan parenting thing, like we're just on the journey right now.
To take my own advice, right, about like just turning to the left, I think I keep trying to like make it happen. You know what I mean? Like design a ceremony, plan an event, like just this type of stuff. And it keeps not happening, right? But actually, my biggest thing I always tell myself I'm going to do and I never do is like start some new habit. Like, I'm going to do this every morning as my morning ritual, you know? And it's like,
thank you, Capricorn. Yeah.
So, but I have to keep telling myself, like, the beliefs are actions, right? Like, I am arriving there by all of this crazy internal development that's happening. You know what I mean? So, like, I'll ask my kid now, like, what do you think the wind is saying? My mom never asked me that, you know? So it's like, I just have to trust that that's enough and that the family traditions will come, you know what I mean? And stop beating myself up because I didn't like stand at the head of the table and say like, and now we pray, you know?
Well, and then the question becomes like, you know, who is that for, right? Like, is the tradition just to punish yourself or is it for something? And if it's for something, like, can we achieve the same something without all the pressure? Being the only feminine representation in this household, I've just sort of resigned to like, I'm going to want to do things that nobody else cares about. And so I'm just going to go hard and do them anyway. And in a way, it's kind of freeing because nobody ever cooperates. And I just know that going in. So like my expectations are low and then I get surprised. Like I would genuinely love some deep rooted traditions. And I think that would make my soul and my heart really happy to have those things. But if I was to try to force it, it would make the whole experience. Oh my gosh, I have another like mundane moment, but like this actually so relates. Okay. My parents, growing up, we would get real Christmas trees. And every time, the whole process of getting that tree on one of my parents' cars to my house, to decorating it, and we're talking when I'm like age 7 through probably 15, every single time it was a not like physically knockout, but like just screaming, fighting, divorce threatening, just utter chaos. I mean, my parents just like were at each other and they would say just like the most malicious, mean things to each other at times. And as a child, it was really painful to go through. Like it just took this tradition that's supposed to be like unifying and beautiful. And it made it just like sick to my stomach feeling the whole process. And then about like in my teenage years, I started just doing the whole thing myself. Like we got a fake tree and I would just like do it every time so everybody could just get along. And so this year we went out and we've done this a couple years as our little family, but this year we went out and got our tree, cut it down, brought it home, did the whole thing, put it in the house, and I was decorating it. And I just had this like flood of relief of like, nobody's yelling, nobody's threatening, nobody's screaming, crying. My kids are making a mess. Like they're part of it. They're comfortable. They're enjoying themselves. Like how deeply healing is this whole experience? It's not just like reflecting and just letting it wash over you and it's true attention brought to something, like how meaningful and spiritual that is. And it was like, wow, I've really done the work to like heal this part of me because now I'm enjoying it and it's like a fun tradition. And so maybe because I was exposed to like what happens when somebody tries to force the tradition and how painful that is, like I just would rather be pleasantly surprised. So with that, I'm going to do the ambitious thing and try to make a gingerbread house from scratch tomorrow with my 3 and my 2-year-old. And I'm like, you know what? If it sucks, like who am I trying to impress? I'm not like putting this on Instagram if it's good.
Please
good or abysmally bad. Like
both will be valued.
You know, yeah, right. And it doesn't have to go on there to make value too, right? It's like, who am I trying to impress with this? I'm trying to have a good time with my kids. And like bringing it back to the intention of who is it for, I think has helped me tremendously in navigating this. And as I sort of piecemeal out like, well, last year we didn't do this, but maybe the kids are ready. And I'm always pleasantly surprised with what sticks. Not all of it works, of course. Like we're going to have a feast tomorrow and the kids probably won't even eat half of it. And we might make gingerbread and we might not because life happens. And I have a ritual this weekend, which is exciting, but it also means I don't see my kids on actual Yule. So about all we'll do is like drum in the sun and be like, hooray, and then that'll be Yule and that'll be great. And most of my like deep spiritual stuff will be felt in ritual with my community, which is also a blessing, but it's separate from my family. And I don't really see how the two can marry. And so there's like that grief of separation too, you know, and it's a whole mixed bag of emotions, but like I just have to let it be because ultimately, like, how can it be for me? Like, what can I do that like brings that comfort back to myself, grounds myself in the intention for my kids, for my husband, for my community. Like that to me is where the good stuff is. I don't know.
I was thinking when you said like, what's the point of the ritual? I was like, oh, well, it's a really good question. And I think the point of the traditions, I want to keep their minds open, their hearts open. I want to keep them grounded and a sense of family, a sense of belonging. Right. Like in all of my reflecting that's been going on, I've been remembering moments in my childhood of thinking like, oh, like I wish that that was real. So Pocahontas, right?
Oh my God, love.
Right.
No
like,
shame. Like that was my jam at 3 years
not
old,
problematic
guys.
at all. Yeah.
No,
But anyway,
right.
beautiful music, I guess. I don't
like
know.
it's core memories. Okay, guys. Like,
Yeah. Sorry. That's just our generation.
It's an awareness that we all understand. Yes.
That's why we're so messed up. No, it's fine. Everything's fine. Anyway, she is talking to Grandmother Willow and like is told to listen to the wind to see what it says. And I remember thinking and feeling so sad. Like, I wish that was real. And now I'm 32 years old and I'm like, wait, that is real.
Oh.
And people can do that. On the one hand, I can have and have had in the past like a chip on my shoulder about all of the stuff that I wasn't taught or was untaught. Now I'm having to either unteach myself or teach myself, right? But actually, so much of that has been revelatory and so profound. And I think the reason why it feels spiritual is because it is such a drastic unlocking and a drastic contrast of things. So I can't be too mad about it because this is why I feel so alive right now. But I just think how much further can my kids go if they don't have to do all that unlearning? What revelations, what untangling and untying are they going to do? Or what are they going to be free to create being unfettered, you know? So I just love the idea of like, this is what we do. We do it every year. This was what it means to be a member of this family. But also like going to national parks was a huge part of my identity. And we did it for 3 summers in a row when I was in like middle school. Right. So like there's still time. And like that just general like worldview type thing, I think is I'm realizing that's the thing that I want to keep them connected to their bodies and like all of the bodies, physical and otherwise. I want to keep them connected to this landscape, this like spiritual soup they're in, you know, keep in touch with their intuition, right? Like these are the types of things that like the rest will follow if I could just keep that alive. So how am I going to do that on Yule? I don't know. How do we do it? But I have to trust. I have to trust, right? That like me just living the way I'm living, being intentional as the days get shorter and shorter and then longer and longer, like, will it come through? You know, I have to trust that it will.
Trusting is not easy.
And it also doesn't just like give us a blank check either. You know,
true.
What does it mean to be true to myself? Right. So you're talking about like, you're going to want to do things and nobody else in your house is going to want to do them. I usually have my like spiritual jumps when my husband's deployed. And I think there's a huge amount of me that takes the back seat when he's around. And it's not his fault. It is just the way that I am. And maybe it's all that mutability and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. In my less thinking, more sensing, I think I'm starting to finally get to what it is I really want and want to do and what I want it to look like, and have to then be courageous enough to then do that thing. Because so much, it's like, yeah, there's not enough time to do the whole like seance or whatever, but there's also just the courage of saying like, no, I really do want to do this. Right. And to someone who's going to what now? We're going to do
where?
We're gonna do what? Like, where do I stand? You want me to over here? What do I have to wear? What do I say? Bang the drum? Okay. Like,
who's coming over? What?
Yeah.
When do we eat?
Yeah, I don't know, but bless his heart. He says he wants to be more spiritual. And I'm like, okay. But
You're
you know,
like,
it's such
come on
personal.
in.
I know, but like you can't even lead a horse to that kind of water. You know what I mean? Like you got to find your own path.
Yeah.
Anyway, which in that sense, like, what I have to make sure that what I'm setting up, like you say, it's not forcing it, right? It's not just forcing it as in like step A, you know, this, step B, we do that. It's also like, I can't expect what I do to be profound for everybody in the room. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that can be painful sometimes. Yeah.
It's a lonely life we're living out here.
Motherhood kind of runs our lives, right? Like while we're being moms, especially when they're really young. And so to try to incorporate like, well, what is true darkness and what is rest and it's like we're still navigating all of our own spiritual downloads while going through the holiday season, while trying to balance it with rest, while just trying to keep humans alive. And that is a lot
and
to ask.
Happy.
And happy. Yeah. Like overjoyed. Like, you know, what is Christmas without a camel, you know, so, you know, like we've got a lot we're trying to carry. And I feel like as spiritual people, as witches, as pagans, as however, like our audience identifies, I think we understand what Yule is, but like making an embodied practice is going to look different every year. And that's what's so cool, I think, about what you and I are coming together to talk about. You've gone through, I feel like, a reckoning this year.
I don't think I've changed more in 1 year in my life.
So we are jumping back in here because we want to share our post-solstice and Christmas wrap up. What actually happened? How did we as pagan mamas really handle these holidays? Because we were so full of hope and potential, weren't we, Annette?
Yeah, the Gregorian chants with my under fours did not occur, but
it didn't.
I know
next
everyone's
year.
shocked.
Yeah. And so for the camel, because I know you're all waiting to find out, I ended up, it was a weird moment actually, but I'm proud of myself for what happened. My son was kind of like, not being bratty, like I wouldn't put him in that category, but he was just like whining, like, oh, I want the camel and I want him. And I just had this moment of like, I'm not going to find this thing, certainly not in time for this holiday. And I just told him the truth. I was like, honey, they do not make that. That game is old. They do not make that camel. And he was pretty upset at first. He didn't cry, but he was like pretty down about it. And you know what? That kid got over it in about 5 minutes. And it was causing me so much stress. And like this 3-year-old's like, all right, whatever. Like I'm moving on. And that was like the extent, like I was literally causing myself so much anxiety over the stupid toy that doesn't exist that he's gonna grow out of like wanting in no time. He hasn't mentioned it since, and he's just over it. Like it didn't matter. And it really got me thinking about, I mean, I've been thinking a lot about like Santa as a concept anyway, because the whole idea of Santa being an egregore is something that like me and my friends could go on and about. But I will put that aside for a second because it was really this question of like, how am I going to handle this with my kids? And I know in a previous episode, I talked with my friend Aura, who was talking about her dark parties and everything, but she also talked about how trying to do Santa Claus with your kids when you're also trying to instill them in a pagan belief of these gods, goddesses, beings, deities, like is out there that you're ascribing to, believing in, working with. And we can't see and feel and touch those, and how those are real, but like Santa suddenly is not real. She felt like that was total contradictory. And I have always felt the same way. I also am a bit of a Grinch in real life. So, which I think it's very funny. This year has been the year of the Grinch. Like my son is just obsessed. Every night we're reading that book. I have it memorized. He, at 3 years old, has it memorized. And it just felt like such a universal symbol to me of like, presents are not the meaning of the holidays. And that is precisely what I ascribed to and believed in. And so to just come clean and tell him that we haven't done Santa, maybe I'm going to get flack for that. But my response is when he asks, like, is Santa going to bring us this or whatever? I respond with, well, some people believe that Santa does this, or that he comes on this night, that bad kids get these things and good kids get these things. Some people believe that, but I leave it very open and he hasn't pressed for details. And we successfully had 0 Santa influence for our Christmas, and the kids had a great holiday. So it's not critical. It's not necessary. Doing exactly what my ridiculous, cute little 3-year-old wanted was also not necessary. And to just tell him the truth, like, I mean, no matter what, even if it's hard truths, I would hope that my impression as a mother that I can give to him is she always told the truth, even when it was hard. And it was just one of those instances where it was like, I gotta just come clean and tell him, like, it's not gonna happen. And let's not keep him hopefully wishing. And I told him, like, I tried really hard to find it. Like, your dad and I have looked everywhere. We found these things, but we didn't find these things. And I just kept it really honest and simple and truthful. He was over it. And so he got a number of other great gifts, including, if anybody's out there watching, these ridiculous dinosaurs hatching out of eggs. Oh my gosh.
Those ones you take into the bathtub?
No. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a literal egg that you pull out. If anybody who's seen these gifts, it's ridiculous. So my mother bought 2, one for my oldest, one for my youngest. And so we watched these like dinosaurs. It's like a little robot dinosaur, and it like breaks out of this egg. There's like afterbirth goo and everything. Oh. And it like comes out, and then like you have to hold it and play with it until it matures into an adult. And you know when it does because it plays music.
Wow.
Which I'm like, that's exquisite. I wish we all played music when we became adults, but I felt my maternal instincts so deeply with these silly robots. I was like, no, give him tender love and care, honey. And seeing my kids like adopt these like little creatures was just the most rewarding thing. So like he didn't get a camel, he got a dinosaur and we're all fine in this family. And it was a huge like fun thing. Solstice, we did do a feast the night before. It was the night where everything went wrong. Like everything I ordered didn't show up or got misdelivered or wasn't available. And so it was like, okay, I guess I'll just use what I have. And it was an excellent dinner. I was so proud of myself. The kids ate none of it, by the way. None of it. They had like a piece of string cheese that I put as like a safety, and then that was it. And then we turned all the lights off except for the tree and my galaxy light, and we read books together under the tree. And the next morning we got up, and if any of you follow me on socials at Cawnawyn more, you saw I was drumming in the sun with the kids in the morning. I was out there for probably a half hour. The kids were out there for maybe 5 minutes, and they were like, we're cold, we're going back in. But they had fun. It was a good little moment. And I was like out there having a peaceful experience. And then I had ritual that night. And that was our solstice. But it was probably one of my favorite memories, I think, that like I've had in recent years, just because, especially us all reading together in the living room was such a cute, peaceful time with our two toddlers. And it ended up working out. And that was the extent of it. I really didn't even do that much magic, although we did have a banging ritual. So if you were there and you're listening, it was awesome. We had a gong bath and it was incredible. I went to like a whole different dimension. It was great. So totally recommend. But like what a perfect little solstice moment. I'm very pleased with how it went despite a lot of little hiccups, right? It's just like you persevere, you move on, you get over it. So that was how was your solstice? Annette,
well,
how was Christmas? How was Merry Crisis?
Solstice. I woke up like the day after solstice with like a real like hello sun on my mind, and I'm like, wow, I totally missed. Like, I don't know, but I was looking at like the actual sunrise and sunsets, and like the sun sets earlier even after the solstice. But
I did not know that.
Like total length of day, I guess, does start getting longer after the solstice. But like when that light is still shifting later. I'm like, is that right?
Like it's rising earlier?
Right.
That feels right.
And so I don't know. I just felt like I was maybe just picking up on that because I sleep on the floor in my youngest child's room. Actually, my kids sleep in the same room. And I'm just in there too on the floor where the window really like the blinds. Like anyway, I'm aware of the light coming in. And I stopped setting my alarm most mornings because I inevitably am awake anyway. I was reflecting actually on our conversation and how something I struggle with just in my personal life is like taking up my own space and like knowing who it is to be fully me, that and my just sort of like newness on this path. Like it's a little hard for me to say, this is what we're going to do, like planning out the ritual and saying, this is what it's going to be. Some of it's like, it takes the time and energy to say like, I want this thing actually, and I want it to look this way. And then there's the like communicating that to other people. So since living out here, we've established a little bit of like a cookie decorating tradition, but that's like not my idea. You know what I mean? That's like my friend who lives locally's idea. And I think that for me, yeah, it's hard for me to make anything that's actually my idea, the thing. So just been realizing that I think more deeply this season. And so, next Sabbath, I'm going to be thinking about that and thinking, okay, what is it that I actually want to do? Also, my most recent child, she just turned 1, right? And so like thinking about birthdays and other sorts of rites of passage too. I want to have that on my radar and just, be asking myself, is it okay that I'm not sort of doing something very distinct at a very distinct moment? Is that fine? Or is it just that like, I'm not actually leaving any room for myself and what I actually think is right for us or would be, most beneficial. So that's what's on my mind.
Yeah.
And as far as rites of passage, I found out something, the Sacred Fire community is something that people can look up. It's like a national network of like these trained sacred fire keepers.
Oh, cool.
And they just host like bonfires regularly.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah, there's one down in Olympia that I think has a men's fire circle and a women's fire circle. And then I think there's just like a family one monthly. So it's like, it's pretty regular.
Cool. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's what's on my mind. None of the things really happened other than the cookies and the presents.
Of course, like essential holiday.
A family tradition of mine is reading the poem the night before Christmas with my family repeatedly, sometimes in horrible accents. I have that almost memorized, even out of season because we do it so much. And then this Christmas Eve, because my toddler was asleep, I just didn't think to call my East Coast family. And so we kind of like missed that opportunity. So yeah, like that's the real.
I hope nobody's beating themselves up, honestly.
We're so good at it.
Yeah, God, right? Like we've been so conditioned, but if you're out there and you're feeling disappointed in yourself, like don't. This is reality. What I was going to ask you actually, Annette, is in the realm of you wanting to make that space for yourself and create something really meaningful and put the effort in to do that. But there's that gap, of course, because we are busy. Life passes us by so quickly, and that can create extra pressure on ourselves too, to like make this holiday, this ritual so meaningful when actually just like being present and enjoying it with our kids is just kind of that season we're in. Do you feel like you missed anything this year really, or like missed out on any of that? Or is your heart grieving that it couldn't have been, or is it kind of a relief of like, I'm not going to put myself under that pressure?
Yeah, I don't have any grief. I think I used to do that more. I was like, oh, like things were moving so fast. I'm like, I'm going to miss it. But I realized recently it'll be fine. You know what I mean? And I will say, like, the day after Christmas when the house was like kind of a mess, like there was just stuff on like every surface.
Yeah.
We're coming down the stairs and my toddler says the house is sad, because like it's like a mess. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. But that was like her vocabulary of knowing energetically, it doesn't feel great in here. Right. Like there's a little too much going on. And I was pleased at that. Right. And I do think my husband and I have been like a lot more present and just joyful recently. And that might be also part of the reason why I'm not like, as we say, like beating myself up about like, oh, what I did or didn't do. It's just, more of an awareness of like, I love thinking about what I might do, but like getting that presence of like really feeling like what it is that I want to do to get into sort of a more decisive and specific kind of place about it. And then also getting like enough oomph to like then say it. Right. Make it happen, bring everybody else along with me, I don't know if it feels this way to others, but I do feel like in my own head, a broken record about routine, right? Like, what am I going to do every year? I keep making promises or I don't know, reckless wishes that like, I'm going to do something every day, like it's the morning routines, and they just literally never happen. Like they maybe happen once, but like the routine aspect is really challenging for me. I think that there's a lesson in that too. And like, oh gosh, yeah, something else you said, your lessons with the Morgan, this sort of like battle type presence, like don't be at war with yourself. I feel like that is a battle with myself that I have, is this desire to be doing something more regularly, literally never being able to. I haven't learned my lesson there yet. I'm still like hitting my head against that wall. I can hear myself doing it again in sort of like, oh, like I just need to be more present. I think if I get more present, I will probably finally learn what that lesson is, but to be continued, I think.
Okay, it's so funny you mentioned that because I recently just had like another development in that realm. Ooh. Which was the sentiment of, I need to stop bullying myself with my future. I take my future and I just beat myself with it. Like that fantasy of whatever it is. Like that is war with myself. My kids need a mother who is here in the present, not a mother who's trying to be a version of herself that doesn't exist. And it's basically me trying to be somebody else, right? It's not the current me. It's a different fantasy version of me. And so they need a mom who's like here right now. And that really hit me in the moment when I read it. I was like, oh, okay. Yes, I can work on that and just be here. I also wanted to mention something I had happened to me on Christmas. So as per earlier in this conversation, we talked a lot about elders, and I'm holding myself to such insanely high expectations because my ambition knows no bounds. Okay. Hence why I have so many projects running simultaneously. On Christmas, I was like, okay, I'm going to bake cinnamon rolls. I'm going to make a gingerbread house from scratch because I just feel like it. And I'm going to do 4 types of Danish cookies that I'm bringing to my parents' house. The Danish cookies in our family are like a big deal. I've had no one teach me to make them. All I have is a very old recipe card that is like a printed off photo that somebody took from the actual card. And I've never made it with one of the adults that was there with my grandmother making these cookies. I failed miserably that morning. The cinnamon rolls turned out excellent. They were great, but they took forever. The gingerbread house, I literally was trying to make it and it just kept falling apart. I was so angry that I just like shoved it all in the trash. The Danish cookies, I made 2 of the 4 recipes and they did not look at all like Danish cookies. They tasted great. Oh my God, the amount of butter. Holy moly. I eat a lot of butter. I am Danish, but holy moly, that was a little much. They were huge. I was like, these are like a big fat American disaster version of a Danish. This is not working. And I was so disappointed and beating myself up mentally for it. And I was like, where's all this anger coming from? It's like, okay, unrealistic expectations, yes. But then when I realized, I just like started sobbing at one point and I just needed a good cry. Like, it's okay. I'm good. I can tell my body is like really upset. So just let it out. Took a moment to myself. And I realized what it was this grief that I couldn't ask my grandmother, like, what am I doing wrong? What do I do? What shape are they supposed to be? How am I supposed to make this? Like, I didn't have her, like, her voice was kind of there, but I can't just ask her. I can't just, like, know. And that wasn't passed down in the way that I would have really learned it. Like, I'm just having to reverse engineer this recipe. And it just
Mm-hmm.
made me long for her and ache for her. And I was like, wow, okay. This makes a lot of sense. Like it wasn't just holding myself to the pressure of I'm going to get this all done. It's that like I'm going to be this like perfect granddaughter. It was so weird. I'm like, let's all blame my Jupiter and Virgo people, okay? So like I've got to be this perfect version of her descendant. When that's first of all not even what she wanted, but like the idea of like, oh, I'm passing down this family recipe was like I was holding it to such high regard with zero help or mentorship, and it's a very old recipe card. So it gave me a lot of like compassion for myself in that moment where it's like, okay, I'm really just missing having something passed down and this person who I love deeply who's no longer here. And I can cut myself quite a bit of slack in this. And you know what? I'm going to figure it out. There are other resources. There are other elders out there still making these things. I can
Mm-hmm.
figure this out and it doesn't have to be perfect today. So you did your
Mm-hmm.
best and I brought the cookies. Everybody was happy. I called them my Texas-sized Danish cookies and everyone got a laugh and it was fine. But it was just one of those like, wow, I really miss her. There's that ache, that vacuum of like I don't have her to talk to. So in a way,
Yeah.
it was kind of a sweet, real like recognition of that.
I think I was reflecting on my whining about the lack of these pillars of wisdom that would have been embedded in our communities once upon a time that we would have been able to access, you know? And I think that grief that you're talking about is real. Actually, when I'm in the kitchen too much, or, you know, just I think piling obligation onto myself, there's a specific part of my back that starts getting like fiery pain.
Mm.
And it always makes me think of my grandma and just like resentment, or I don't know. And I'm like, okay, like, do I really have to be doing this right now? Or could
Mhm.
I just not be cooking and just like sit down for a second? But anyway, I think that some of my feelings under that grief is also just the energy and the signal to myself that like I have work to do. Does that make sense? Like,
Mhm.
I think for me in particular, and like my herbal and frankly, like shamanic path that I want to be advancing on, it's like, girl, you have a lot of tools already. You know what work you should be doing right now. Be patient, stop grasping. Like, I think I was sort of grasping for that external guidance and sort of a make my work easier for me.
Sure.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And just sort of toggling between the very real feelings of grief that are deserved in our current system, but also this like, okay, like that discomfort that you're feeling is the engine driving you, right? Like,
Totally.
answer, don't just complain about it, you know, do something about it, you know, like, is that just like my internal resistance sparking because I'm actually too afraid to take the steps I need to do, or too disappointed with myself for like not like actually like implementing the work that I could be doing now, like that kind of thing. So anyway, I appreciate that opportunity to sort of fine tune earlier things I had said because I want to be impeccable with my word, right? You know, like words are spells, like let's be precise here about what it is that we are thinking and feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like this is an ongoing process too. Like I didn't even realize I was feeling that grief until I actually took the moment for
Mm-hmm.
myself to just process emotion. And emotion can be that discomfort that's like, ah, why is this hard? I don't want it to be hard. I
Yeah.
want it to be easy or
Well,
effortless. But then it's like, oh, this is actually driving the discomfort. And there's a way forward here that I can see. Like in your case, I'm missing that. I'm feeling that ache. This is calling me into like stepping into greater ownership and responsibility of this area of my life, but you can still
mhm.
have the emotions. And
Yeah.
I think in a way, like when we have that awareness, it makes the whole process easier because it makes more sense, frankly. It's not just this wash of like emotion where we're just upset. We
Yeah.
have to take the time to sift through it.
Yeah. And what stood out to me in your story was like you were saying, like, that's not what my grandmother wanted. And so, like, by taking that moment to reflect, like, you got in touch with not just your complicated feelings of missing her, but also like who she was and what her personality was and how she would treat you in that moment, which is so nice. And I think for myself as well, it's so easy to put people on pedestals and like they're the keepers of all the knowledge. But specifically for plant spirit work, it's like, no, like literally the plants are alive. They're people too. And they can tell you, like, that's the whole shtick that I'm into right now. You know what I mean? Like, this is my whole belief system revolving around this. Just talk to the plants, you know, that's the point. You know what I mean? That's how people got this wisdom in the first place. Are there certain protocols and journey techniques and etiquette that you could learn from somebody else? Absolutely. But the plants are generous. They're here, they're waiting. And you need to develop your own personal relationships with them anyway.
And maybe it comes down to like really recognizing, like, is this grief? Is this loss? Is this missing? Or is this me seeking external validation?
Yeah, I think it's so complicated because I think the answer for me is both.
100% same.
I think it's all of the above.
Which is perfectly human,
and
right?
Sometimes like, it's exhausting to be the bigger person all the time and be like, all right, I'm just going to diligently be
we're tired
on this path. You know what I mean? It's like, no, I kind of just wanted to like whine about it for a second. But okay, I realize that's not
and you're safe here. You are safe in this space to whine about it.
But it's a lot of work.
This is why I believe women have superpowers. We can come to each other and whine, and there's still this understanding of like, oh, but you get it. You know what I mean? Like, I just need to, that's what venting is for. We're all together.
Good amount of mental processing happening verbally here.
Yes. Yeah. It's crucial. Key to long life. So we're doing great.
Is that the key?
That's the key. We made it.
Good to know.
We will be back for 2026 very soon and share our looking back and looking forward, I guess, for all the things to come in the next year. And we're wishing all listeners out there, parents of kids young and old and all, and that's in between, if all the parents out there, a blessed
everyone who has ever
solstice.
lived and maybe listening to this or not, or just like impacted by the sound waves that are now in the universe will be repeated every time someone hits play.
You came for me really hard right there.
No, I agree. This is me seconding.
We're wishing you all such a beautiful winter solstice, and you will take the pressure off yourselves and enjoy this space. Enjoy the sun returning. Enjoy the rain if you can. I hope you can. Enjoy the snow. Stay warm. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Stars and Sprouts.
New episodes bloom with the wheel every Sabbath and in between.
And until next time, keep growing wild, rooted, and radiant.